for transfer of $100 per account per month has been lifted? And that's a question from a listener.
All right, I do. Before I answer the question, so to our listeners and to those on Zoom radio, Olumide is joining today, and it's probably going to be a regular feature as well. Olumide Additional is our crypto analyst and investment analyst at Nairametrics. So he's very vast at things like this, and he's the one who, does a lot of all those very interesting investment and crypto stories. So yes, so to the question, I am not aware that they have lifted anything. I don't know, Lawretta or Olumide, if you guys are aware. I'm not aware that the CBN has lifted it. So you still have those limitations. And remember that it's your bank that is placing all those limitations, not necessarily the CBN directly. So it all depends on, so if your bank has not written to you to tell you that they have now increased your transfer limit, then the only way you can know is if you try to do a transfer, right? But I am not aware that they have lifted it. A lot of banks are still within that limit. Remember that things haven't changed that much. It's not like there's a lot of dollar out there yet. So that's it. I do.
Thank you very much, Ugodre, for that. That was very enlightening. Of course, this person is asking one question that almost every Nigerian would ask. It says, what is the best way to grow income as a salary earner? Almost every Nigerian would ask that question. Okay, go ahead, Lawretta. You can answer.
I think the first thing is to know what your objective is. Now, if your objective is to earn more salary, then I think you need to position yourself. You need to equip yourself with the skills. If it's not necessarily to earn more from one source, then you can leverage on the gig economy, get side jobs, as long as it does not affect your main job, right? You can leverage on the gig economy, get freelance jobs, get additional sources of income. That way, it's kind of like investing in multiple sources of income. So diversifying your portfolio, pretty much. Those are the only two advice. You either get a bigger paying, a higher paying salary job, or you increase your sources of income. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Lawretta, for that. So there's a stock market question here. I'm sure maybe Olumide can chip in since he's a very investment-y kind of guy. It says, is the stock market a viable option now? That's what the person is asking. It says 10 to 11 years ago when I tried it with about 18 million naira, it crashed. That's what the person said. Hardly was I able to retrieve 15 million naira from it over the time space of 10 years. Says, I need a good financial advice as to what to do. So that's what this question is all about. Is the stock market a viable option? And that's the background of the individual.
Yeah, thanks again to be on the show. I think if you look at it, Wooly, the stock market, the Nigerian stock market seems to be the best performing index in Africa. It has a return year to date of over 30%. And some stocks are on its record highs. But I think what the person that wrote the question needs to understand is that some stocks exhibit cyclic returns. And if you look at the telecom stocks, for example, the Airtel is on record highs, trading almost above 700 naira. Sorry, it's above 700 naira. MTN is having a run, and investors are cashing in because of the privileged situation around COVID-19. And also, if you look at banking stocks have recovered from their record dips in March, where Zenith Wealth fell as low as 10 naira, and now it's trading above 22%. So I think what the person needs to understand is that for you to be successful in the stock market, regardless of where you're investing, you need to readjust your portfolio from time to time, because stocks, they move in when the exhibit price swings time to time. For example, if you had invested in Owando, you must have used thousands of percent. So that will not really reflect to what is performance happening at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So I think from my own perspective, the market is still one of the best to invest in now, right now.
Because there's some bit of apprehension, Olumide, particularly I had a conversation with a family member who's in diaspora who was calling and was saying, oh, from what they're hearing, people should pull out their money from the stock market. Is that just some uncalled for fear, or is there a need for people to start to reconsider some of this in investment?
I think that person needs to reconsider, because if you look at recent FDI inflows coming from Nigeria, when a lot of money, over $169 million, came to the Nigeria equity market, and that shows that investors, even foreign investors, are coming in troops. And if you look at our blue chip stocks now, they are doing very well. Dangote is moving close to 200 naira. Airtel, like I said, is not doing bad. Stocks that at Okumo and other are already close to their record high. So I think that sentiment is out of place. Then also you need to consider the fact that the border closure might soon be relaxed, and these firms will have more upside in the long term. Then also, when you still, regardless of the performance going on in the Nigerian stock exchange, when you compare their price earning ratio with other the African counterparts, it shows that the stocks are quite cheap. For example, look at Zenith. Zenith is still giving a dividend yield of more than 15%. Tells you that that stock has more upside.
I told you that he was loaded, Adu. I told you.
I know. I'm seeing, some very. I think we should call him the financial guru. Maybe the money man should be reserved for you, and we'll just call him the financial guru. Anyway, let's.
All right. So just to piggyback on Olumide's comment.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
Adu. So what I often say to skeptics is, where were you like a few months ago? I mean, Lawretta and I were saying on this show that the best market to be in about 3, 4, 5 months ago was the stock market. At that time, stocks were relatively very low in terms of price, and we've been saying it since. So now they've really gone up, and is there still a buying opportunity? Yes, there is, and that's what Olumide is basically saying. There are still some good stocks out there. You only gotta just Of course, there's foreign stocks as well. There's foreign stocks, and foreign stocks are doing quite well too. So if you're not even comfortable about local stocks, there's a foreign stock market too that you might want to try your hands on. So these are just options out there for you to invest in. So what happened 10 years ago is still fresh in the memories of a lot of people, but that should not deter you. You know what I mean? You sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It doesn't mean that you're going to keep losing. There are people who are out there who lost money as well 10 years ago and are making money now. So, that's how it is. Adu.
Thank you very much, Ugodre, for setting perspective. There's a question, please, Ugodre, before you I take another one. Still in the same line. This other person is saying, what is the best app to monitor a stock? So this person wants to monitor. So I know your website does give updates, nairametrics.com. Is there any other app or any other platform where this person can monitor?
Yeah, so there's a plethora of them out there. There's a lot of applications out there. Without trying to advertise for anyone, you can. So the general ones will be maybe Bloomberg or FT, but at some point you gotta have your own account. But what it does for you is that it can allow you to create all sorts of portfolios that you can use. There's also local ones. There's one that is called the Yocha, I think. It's not a bad app. It's also, I think that one is Nigerian. And then your stockbrokers as well, they also have apps. So if you have a stockbroker, particularly those that are online, you can use their app as well. And their app also allows you to, track stock per share prices, check how good your portfolio is, whether you're making money or not. You can even simulate portfolios on some of them. So yeah, there are apps that you can use, definitely.
All righty, you heard it from the money man himself. Let's take more questions here. Good morning, dear Ugodre, Lawretta, and Adu. This person is from Shomolu Temeka. Says, please, in order to prevent the suffering of pains most retirees or elderly people face after retirement from active service from a public or private organization, as a young person or employee with minimal income, how can one attain financial freedom before retirement or resignation? In other words, how can one grow his or her investment to attain financial freedom? That's Emeka joining us from Shomolu. Did you get the question?
That's very, very, yes, I did.
Okay,
That's a very good question. Because what I'm saying is, as opposed to waiting for your pension to yield something good that would sustain you when you're much older, what can you do right now? And I think it's something that many young people need to, really get on the back of. So if you're much younger, I believe you can take on a lot more risk. Diversifying your portfolio would be great. So first, you can start with growth stocks. With growth stocks, you know that by the time you invest now in the next 10 to 15 years or 20 years, based on their strong fundamentals, you would have attained capital appreciation. So things like reinvesting your profits, your dividends, just growing all the way, leveraging compound interest, exponential growth all the way to the future. That's one way. You can also invest in like the real estate, you might even set up your own business. But I feel the underlying point here is that you need to be investing, and you do not need to be investing in things like treasury bills for all I care. You need to invest in assets that have the potential of increasing your income in the long term. And I would also add that in addition to that, you should also invest in yourself, particularly because there's, when the stock markets can move, things could go wrong. You could end up in another country. You might, anything could happen. But if you have invested in yourself and your capacity to earn, in the long term, there is so much that you can do. Opportunities could be opened up to you, and then you'd be able to, relocate to your dream house in Banana Island. But the point is,
talk to me, Lawretta. you just struck a chord there. Don't mind me. Go ahead.
No, you just need to move. You need to invest in a lot of things. You need to diversify your portfolio now. Take on opportunities, and don't stop. Don't be afraid to do that, because at the end of the day, you only have yourself. You cannot trust these pension companies. I'm sorry. So you have to push yourself. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So let's take some more questions here. This one says, thank you for the Finance Bill PIB and after webinar over the weekend. I think this was one of the participants there. This person says, please, I want to know if you've ever come across an investment platform known as Cloud Kaori, not Kaori Wise.
Okay, basically it's a usual investment firm, but my concern is that it doesn't have any SEC regulation, so I can't recommend or approve of it. But it's just name considered is different from Kaori Wise. Kaori Wise has a relationship with Meristem, so their funds asset management are kept under Meristem. So that's the difference.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, let's move on. There are more questions here. Now, Ugodre, this one is particularly for you. It says, hello, sir. What investment plan do you know that can yield up to 20% ROI? Watch this, within a couple of days. Man. Now, this is the money man's question.
Wow. You want to be rich by all means in a number of days. Whoa.
I tell you.
The only investment that can give you that is Ponzi. And a Ponzi scheme is not something that I would advise you to do. But I mean, it depends on how lucky you can be. So you can make 20% in a number of days in the stock market. You can make it in the crypto market. You can make it, trading commodities. It all depends on demand and supply, and then how bullish the market is at any point in time. But for you to be able to be in that position, you've really got to be extremely lucky. So it's not like you're smart or you've got some science around you that nobody knows about. You just have to be extremely extremely lucky, or maybe you've got some. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely, loud and clear.
All right, so maybe you've got some. Maybe he's got some insider information that, you know, an announcement is going to make the share price go up, and then you quickly just put your money in there, and then it doubles. So it can happen. That's really the point. But the probability of that happening, probably 1 to 100. So it's rare. So I don't advise that you go into investments like that, because then the risk is high. You might end up losing all your money. So you got to go into investment, you know, giving yourself a considerable time horizon, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, but not weeks, man, and not days. Definitely.
Oh, he said days, actually, days.
Not days, man. Not days.
The man obviously needs some Christmas money, I'm guessing.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, well, actually, just to chip in,
Yes, please.
what Ugodre said, actually, the best investment you can do is yourself. And if you look at the top 100 billionaires, 97% of them have businesses, they own businesses, and that's where you get returns of 5,000, 9,000% annually. Tesla just this year had returned 800% to investors. So if he's looking for that kind of investment, he must do something brilliant and make the world buy. So I think, but from investment, people make mistakes that you get that kind of consistent investment. Just like Ugodre said, has to do with management, luck, and precision, and you have to have that all in for you to have that kind of metric. And I don't think even George Soros or Warren Buffett has done that kind of metric. So you should build on yourself. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is it possible, this person is still asking something about the stock markets, is it possible to use quantitative and algorithmic or automated trading techniques in Nigerian stock markets?
Yeah, very possible. Actually, that's what I use to trade. I use quantitative analysis. Quantitative basically means using statistics and mathematical models to run your price patterns to anticipate market movement. So yeah, it's something most traders use. But I think what he's trying to say is he's talking about the advanced programming where algorithms and a lot of proprietary data are used, and that's where it becomes a bit tricky, because first of all, for you to have that kind of platform or program, it's expensive, one, and two, the market liquidity must be very strong. And you know, one of the problems we have in Nigeria is that some of our stocks are not that liquid. So those circumstances will not work for some prevailing stocks, because the programs work with market efficiency. If the market efficiency is high, you get a high model success. So if the market efficiency is kind of shaky, the model too will be affected. But I think we have leading firms like the FDS owned by Bismarck One. They run quantitative and trading programs there, and certain other leading brokerage firms. But it's very possible. But for retail traders, very expensive. The algorithm trading is very expensive. So most times, most traders use the fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis simply means the use of news information and that you already get websites like Nairametrics, Bloomberg. So you can also use that too. So it all depends on your pattern. So it's very possible. Yes, you can.
Okay. Okay, so let's take two questions now. This is like a sandwich, but both of them have like a similar line of thought. The first person is asking, says, good morning, please. Can you advise on the possibility of the naira to the dollar rate still rising in the months ahead? Now, the second person says, good morning. Is there any possibility for the naira to gain and go back to 400 naira to a US dollar? So the first person is asking if the margin can widen, and the second person is asking if the margin can shrink.
Okay. Looking at the official rate, I think it's below 400 naira. The last time I checked was 393 at the import-export window, and I think the Central Bank of Nigeria has tried in recent days to stabilize the rate, and I think it seems to be working. And another thing helping the central bank is the record inflow coming from our export earnings. Don't forget that crude oil now is trading about $50 a barrel. It means the CBN are getting profit margins of about 40% now. So I think it's much better than before. But I think what is really concerned about is the black market rate, where the rates are falling at presently about 470 naira. I don't think that's something the central bank will have to worry about, because those that genuinely need FX are getting at rates stated by the CBN. And I remember some of my friends that applied for FX for school fees, they got at rates below 400 naira. So I think in the midterm, I think, yes, the naira looks good compared to other all exporting countries, because we are commodity driven, and the listener needs to understand that until Nigeria diversify, the oil earnings will affect our currency appreciation and depreciation. But still, looking at the whole metrics, the dynamics, currency dynamics, the naira seems to be getting on its feet, but the next year might look a bit shaky, because the dollar is at its record low, and we're seeing that by the time the new administration comes in, the dollar might see, because now the dollar is at its bottom, and it looks like the dollar is at its oversold position. So against major currencies, the dollar seems to appreciate. So I think the listener to understand that it depends on, if you're looking at the official, yes, we get it at below 400. Looking at the black market, it's much less of a concern, because there are dark channels, and you can't really control dark channels. I can get the dollar for you at 440, 450, depending on what inflows you want. And you don't really use the black market to gauge monetary policies.
Okay, can I just
Yes,
can I
Lawretta,
just
real
add
quick.
that I believe it would actually gain, even if it's, I mean, the naira would gain against the dollar, even if it's just a little bit, and move at a steady pace. Now, I'm saying this because we have increased dollar supply, and as a result of that, the demand pressures on the dollar have reduced compared to previous months ago. Even with, somebody asked the question just now about the 1.5 billion naira loan. I think these are things that would also come in place to ensure that, the naira gets strengthened against the dollar. Now, as far as US election is concerned, all of that is still what I'll call speculation for now. So let's actually have faith in the naira a little bit. I don't know if Ugo has a contrary opinion about that.
I mean, like, I hate to be in the prediction of in the business of predicting exchange rate. I don't like it, because most times you never get it right. But what I do know is that there's, so long as I've been in, for all my experience in the Nigerian economy, there are certain things that determine the trajectory of the exchange rate, and if you monitor those things, you can't fairly know how to maybe hedge your risk. So, for example, oil prices. When you see oil prices going up, then there's every likelihood that the exchange rate would hold. If you see that Nigeria is pumping oil and there are no issues around oil production, then the exchange rate can hold as well. And then, like Olumide said, if you see that we're earning foreign exchange, maybe foreign investors are coming back into the country, either via portfolio investments or direct investments, then that is also positive as well. And then now that the economy is opening up, that is also positive. But when things are, reverse of everything that I've said, then that means that, the exchange rate would likely depreciate further. So those are the things that I really check out. And then the fact that we are close to 500 naira is also because there's no dollar in the streets. But with the move the CBN made just a few weeks ago, you saw what happened. We went from 490 to about 470. So those are the kind of things you got to check. It's difficult to predict, but it's only because we're in Nigeria. Across the world, most times, people don't even bother themselves with the exchange rate, because, it's floating. So it goes up, it goes down. Nobody really cares. Adri.
All right. There was a question, though, in the question and answer session on the platform about a $1.5 billion loan. This person is asking what the impact it will have on the economy will be.
Yeah, I mean, we did answer that already. So it's going to be positive. Like I said, Nigeria needs all the inflows that it can get in terms of dollars. So with $1.5 billion in, that should help. And let's remember that money was tied to, they had some strings as well. The reason why the CBN collapsed or sort of tried to merge, the multiple exchange rate was because of this money that we were expecting as well. So it should be positive, more positive than negative. But to what extent is what I'm not sure that we can say here, Adu.
All right, Ugodre, thank you all. And it was good having you, Olumide, the finance man. No, what I call you again now. The finance man, Abi. Good to have all of you join us right here on Everyday Money Matters. Hope to do this same time next week. Okay.
All right, definitely.
Right,
and thanks to all our participants as well. Let's do this again next week. There's gonna be Christmas giveaways though, so
looking forward to that.
Be online next week. Yeah.